Okay. Update on the seL4 Foundation by its CEO, June Andronick.
Bear with me, I'm a bit tired. All right, this is the last presentation. We're almost done. All right, let's try to bring it home a little bit. And this is just like absolutely not technical presentation, just to give you a bit of an overview of what the seL4 Foundation has been up to, what it is doing, how does it work, what is the vision, and so on, right? So what is our mission is to provide a home to the whole ecosystem, the ecosystem of the technology, the software, but also the developers, the adopters, and that's for safety and security critical systems based on seL4. So we have a website that describes the foundation that is hosted on the seL4 systems website. Technically, what that foundation is, it is two bodies. On one side, you have the technical steering committee, and on the other hand, you have the board. So one side deals about everything that is technical, and the other side, I'll come back to it, but mainly everything that is financial. Together, these two bodies are there to support the community that is building on seL4. Part of this community are members, which hopefully at some point the two circles will be the same. So once again, what the technical side of things here, the technical steering committee, helped by committers and reviewers, as you've been hearing in the AMA, are there to look after the code base. And I've put plus here because seL4 is the kernel, but then you have the whole, things that are hosted by the foundation. And the community interacts by providing contributions that go through the technical steering committee to get into the code base. On the other side, I was saying it's mainly on the board, financial things. So the members provide, when they join the foundation, they provide two things. They provide money by their membership, and they provide a representative. So I'll come back to that. You have different tiers, but basically you can have one representative for a member or a voted one, if depending on the categories. I'll come back to it. But basically you have money coming in, and what the board does is vote of what to do with this money. So that's kind of, in some sense, directing as well how we can support the community and take decisions on that. And so, for instance, we've been working at investing in some development for seL4, seL4 related technology, having some events, I'll come back to it, some continuous integration, admin support, proofs, and so on. So I'll come back to that in where we've been investing. But that's kind of the circle of how things are going. I want to mention as well that the technical steering committee also provides support themselves in terms of time, like in-kind contributions. And we had all these discussions today as well in terms of, the available bandwidth is something that you need to take into account in thinking that that's in-kind contribution from the technical steering committee. That's a bit of an overview. I'll try now to go a little bit in details in some of the things that to give an update. Let's start with that side, which is both the community and the technical steering committee. So examples of contributions. So contributions from the community have been increasing as we, that was one of the goals of having the foundation and created that ecosystem and community. So examples of things that we received from the community were ports to new platforms or improvements to existing platform, improvement to usability, documentation as well, comments, and the RFCs that we all talked about a lot this today and the previous days, so requests for comments. So that's when it's like bigger changes that requires some discussions, and usually because it extends seL4. So very little change in how the kernel works itself, which is good because, again, it's a high assurance. If you were in this room in the first discussion on upstreaming changes, we are having a high assurance code, so it shouldn't change without a very good reason, right? They're also not only the high assurance part, but the design principle, like the policy-free, performance-focused, and so on, that needs to be some kind maintained by making sure that we look at what gets into the kernel. So a summary of that part is that seL4 can evolve through the growing community while being safeguarded by the technical bodies that can look after that. Something that was mentioned, I can't remember in which room, but we have those hangouts, the seL4 hangouts. So these are open video chats that happens every 2 weeks. They have no strict agenda. They bring the developers together. Anyone can join. And we have really open discussions. The last few ones had a bit of scheduling issues while working on it. Some people traveling and so on, and they're not there, so that's fine, we can blame them. I think I don't see him. But really, I think it was a very good channel. I mean, I've seen discussion going on in those hangouts that were not happening elsewhere, in the sense of, you have access to a few people from the technical steering committee. Even, we were talking about, I want to submit that idea, what is the best way, or have people have more comments on this thing that have been discussed in the mailing list and so on. So that's very open conversations. If you want to know, there is a calendar feed. If you go on the seL4 website and you find this Stay in Touch, you'll have all the information. You have the mailing list and so on, but you'll also find information about the Hangouts. All right, a bit of an update on our membership base. We have 3 levels, Premium, General, and Associate. And today we're up to 25 members. So we have 6 Premium members, which are over there, 14 General members, and 5 Associate. The difference between the 4, so when you get a Premium member, you get a seat at the board. So each Premium member has a seat at the board, but the membership fee is higher. The general members all together vote for 1 representative, and the associate and the membership fee depends on the size of your organization. And the associate members are for academia or government organizations. The fee is free, but you don't have any voting rights. And I wanted to remind everyone that to be part of the seL4 Foundation, you need to be part of the Linux Foundation because we're hosted there. So you have kind of the two. On the other hand, we benefit as the foundation from all the services of the Linux Foundation that would cost us more if we weren't, and so we would have to have bigger fees. So one way or another, it's confusing to have 2 fees, but it's for the kind of similar purpose.
Including support for next year's summit.
Including that, I'll come back to that, like in terms of what has been supported for that. Yes. I just wanted to highlight a few things. You can find on our website on the membership. We have here our founding members, so the people that have joined from the start. So when we created, so the first members at the creation of the foundation. I'll keep it a bit shorter to the picture. So okay, good. Some of the latest ones that came in I just wanted to mention them. So you can see big names there, but you can see also some quite important government organization. Thank you. I'm tired, right? It does look that I'm tired. That is also a great support in terms of showing on multiple countries the support for the technology itself. Is a very nice recognition. And what else? Yes, I also wanted to mention the endorsed service providers. So we have an endorsement scheme. We started with the interim one while we were figuring out the best way to do it. We've now settled on having mainly endorsed service providers in a more qualified way, in the sense that we qualify which services. So if you go on the website for each of our endorsed service providers, these are companies where the foundation looked at the service they provide and they said, yeah, these are the people we would like to direct the community if you want this kind of services around the seL4, okay? And the fact that we now have a bit more detail on which services is to help the community know, okay, if I want services around, I don't know, people that have expertise in RISC-V or virtualization or kernel level proofs and so on, you'll have different, you'll have information on the website on which one provides which kind of services. So in a nutshell, the membership is growing, and the fact that the membership is growing allows the support of the technology and the community. And as I'll come back to it, but as Darren says, this is also why we can have this kind of summits and support for the community. So join in if you're not. I'll even say it stronger, more strongly, whatever it is. Betting on seL4. So, you know, you have an open source software. You get it for free, but nothing is for free. You have a whole infrastructure underneath that allows people to contribute, the development to continue underneath. I'll come back to whatever the funding allows, but all of that happens because we have members. So think about it. Like if you're working with seL4 and you get it for free, I mean, the natural thing is to contribute back by being a member, because that's how we can continue to have it for free. To join, type seL4, feel lucky, you end up there. You can click on the foundation and have the join now. If you have any question, email us. Of course, we'll be happy to help you becoming a member. Or seL4.foundation, yes. Okay, so coming back to the investment, so giving you a few examples of what we have been lately investing in as the foundation. Firstly, the continuous integration infrastructure and seL4 tests. So we have been improving through the funding from membership. We have been able to have contracts to improve the infrastructure and improve how the seL4 tests were able to be run and so on. So if you come back to Gerwin's presentation this morning, that was allowed by all this work. I gave a talk earlier this year at the TCCOE Summit that had a bit more information, and this you can find it in the seL4 YouTube channel, where, by the way, we'll aim to put all the presentations from this summit. So we have a YouTube channel where you can find those presentations. Other examples of things we've been investing is in projects. So we had proof projects and systems project. Proof project, we have been doing improvement on the proof framework that allows to help future projects being less expensive and so on. So the scalability, dealing with the technical debt on the proof side of things. We mentioned, Raf mentioned in his talk on the MCS verification, starting the C refinement. We got some funding from the seL4 Foundation. On the system side, the driver framework, Gernot mentioned that we initially had funding from the seL4 Foundation directed to that until we got third-party funding. So that's also one thing that is really good, is that we can use the foundation to seed some project or start some project that then can attract a bit more funding from third parties. Not only that, but also, I'll mention it, I'll come back to the rest, we have an opportunity to also allow co-funding. That was one of the big goals of the foundation at the start, which is we have some projects that are too big or too costly for one single organization to be able to say, I'll fund that. But multiple organization might be interested in making it happen. So Gunnar often mentioned the big ticket items. So we have the MCS verification, the AR64 verification, and the multi-core verification. And so now we have put in place a mechanism where you can do it through donation at the foundation, and we have a pre-approved mechanism at the board that if a donation comes from one of these three projects, it would be directed to try to fund those projects to happen. The other ones I want to mention, the seL4 Summit. Obviously, that requires some funding, and this is allowed by the membership. Of course, we have registrations and so on, but that doesn't cover all the costs that we need to put in place such an event. So we need to use some of the foundation funding. Another one that is important is brand promotion and protection, and that comes back to what we also get from being under the Linux Foundation. We get all the legal support in enforcing trademark, enforcing that there's no violation of that, of the trademark. And that's really important for you also as betting on the seL4 brand, that you don't want, you know, some other places forking seL4, changing it, still doing verification claim and still calling seL4, right? So you want to make sure that this doesn't happen because you've bet on seL4 and we're putting a lot of effort to make it verified and have the right properties so that this brings you value and high assurance. So we are working on that and we're getting support, but that again requires some legal cost. The last point, I'm obviously conflicted here, but this is what allows to pay for some of my time to be able to push things forward to the foundation, but also someone like Berg that I mentioned that manages to, you know, put some time to make the communication happen, the website to be updated, the contracts to be signed, and so on. So what does the board do? It invests to ensure that the development of seL4 is continuing and accelerating, that you can have some interoperability and standardization, the sharing of costs that I mentioned as well, and for the benefit of all and the support of the community. So that's pretty much the vision. We want a community that is vibrant and well supported. We want members that are on one direction receiving value for their membership, that, you know, they can be highlighted as endorsed providers and things like that, but also contribute back by becoming members and supporting the open source technology. And altogether, we want to make sure that seL4 is not only the world's best secure operating system technology, but that it is also readily deployable and supported by that diverse and stable ecosystem of services and products. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the seL4 Foundation. It's the I'll use the 1 minute extra to say it's been really amazing to see the summit happening the last 3 days. The amount of people that came and making all of that really worthwhile, right? All of that investment really worthwhile. So thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions as well. Thank you. Yes. Do you need that?
Is there a process or anything for members or non-member community members to request features or work to be done by the foundation and then that the board can then vote on? They might not have enough time to even go so far as to do an RFC or something like that, but just like, hey, you know, here's a feature that would be really useful. Would the foundation be able to fund something like that?
I don't think we have an explicit process apart from, so on one hand at the board, when we make those financial discussions, we gather thoughts at the board level. We have from time to time, I don't know if we've done it at the AGM, but getting the feedback from the team at the last AGM, I think. So AGM is also like once a year, an opportunity to say, what would you like to see happening? So it's not there's not an ongoing open line for you to, you know, suggest things, although you can always, you know, like, yeah.
Maybe I should comment here on the chairman, as the chairman.
Yes.
So obviously any money the foundation spends needs to be authorized by the board. So there's a budget. The budget is public. You can find it at the website and it says what we're going to do with the money. We do have a certain contingencies and
sort of project funding that is flexible. That's basically been pre-approved at the board and which we can redirect. But I don't really see a case for, oh, we need this urgent change to seL4. That requires really a longer process because of exactly what June says, right?
But like a process to put it on the stack or something like that, like here's, kind of here are a bunch of potential things that community members want, and when it comes time to figure out what we're going to spend money on, take those into account.
There's definitely you can always request talk to us and thinking this is something we should be funding. We wouldn't be just funding things out of the blue. It's got to be something where certainly we are convinced that it's for the best of the community. And for anything that's not on the present roadmap, we would definitely want to see community buy-in in the sense of, yes, some reason support. So I would say an RFC would be the very minimum thing for something like that, without making up any steadfast rules.
But also, like when we didn't get a lot of answers when we do surveys. So that's also one thing, like if we do a survey, like feel free to please give us some input. Then we can see like it's at the board that the decision is made, but yes, to get input through those surveys. Yeah.
And I should also point out sort of, there's always, obviously, we're very active partners in the community, and therefore there's always conflict of interest arising. So I have a conflict because I have a long-going standing association with Hensoldt Cyber that long predates the foundation. I get some money to UNSW, and I actually go out of my way to really minimize what I take from the foundation. So we have basically support for the infrastructure, and the only other thing is that we allocated seed funding for getting the driver framework going. And as soon as I had other funding, I actually returned half of the money because I had independent funding, and therefore I didn't want to spend foundation money. So we're very mindful of what we do with the membership fees, because we really want to maximize the benefit for the community.
I just wanted to say a more maybe political answer is you have a representative at the board takes decisions. So I don't know if that's the right answer, but that's another way of saying like the decision is made and the discussion is made at the board. Your representative as, say, a general member is David Harden, who's representative of all the general members. Maybe, I mean, I don't think it's the practical way of doing it, but that's the more,
Just to clarify, I'm also not talking about like asking money for, if I'm the person making the request for myself to do it. But
sure. Yes, you want
that I would really like in the kernel. I don't have time to do it.
Something you want to add
whether I have money or not.
to the roadmap. It would be really good to have that happening at the foundation level. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And sort of, our roadmap on the website is a bit stale. I think that needs a bit of an update.
You want it?
That was just a comment. So, I mean, RFC means request for comments. So I think this is the proper formal way we should follow. Otherwise, on GitHub, I mean, there's this issue thingy where we have some labels, and there's a label new feature. So lots of people post stuff there, and we tag all this stuff. We can go through the list, but in the end, I mean, you have to file an RFC, I think, to put this in a proper way and not say, hey, I want this cool feature, please implement this, because this will not happen then practically.
By the way, in terms of sort of funding specific things, one of the things I really wanted to see for a long time is going to happen soon now, and that is running the seL4.systems website on seL4 without any stinking Linux in between. Just it's not there yet, but I've got students working on all the bits and pieces. So we have one student who got MicroPython going, so we'll be able to use a native website driver. Just need to integrate with the driver framework. So it's close.
Just use Elixir, it'd be much easier. For the low price of
Okay, any more questions for June specifically? No, thank you. I think then we are in the wrap-up session.
Okay, so Gernot, you wanted to give us a, Well, we got to wait for the session, get in the right session.